right? So today we'll be looking at reading comprehension. Now, essentially, if we look at reading comprehension section, this is a very, I would say, this is one of the important areas both on the GMAT and on the GRE, right? So if we look at, um, you know, GRE section, essentially you have like 50% of the total question comes from reading comprehension. So let's say out of 20 questions from a particular section, 10 question comes from your ability to solve reading comprehension questions. And the remaining 10 comes from text completion and sentence equivalence. Right. Now, but if you look at the GMAT section, essentially you get like 1/3 of the total number of questions comes from uh, reading comprehension. So which means out of 36 questions, 12 questions comes from reading comprehension. So that's also a significant chunk both for GRE and GMAT. Now, in terms of approach towards GMAT or a GRE reading comprehension, this is, I would say, somewhat similar. Not much of a difference in terms of question types, in terms of the level of the passages, uh, right? So we will be looking at some approaches towards reading comprehension, like how to read uh, and how to solve questions on reading comprehension. That will be our focus, right? So so essentially, if we look at reading comprehension questions, uh, basically you're given short passages and some questions based on the passages. So like on an average, you see 3 to 4 questions based on a passage. So the idea is to read the whole passage, try and understand the major points discussed in the passage, and then solve questions based on it, right? Now, if you look at when we look at passages, you have shorter passages, which would be, I would say, 300 to 400 line passages, 400 words passages, I should say. But for longer passages, you come across like 500 to 600 word passages. So you get a combination of shorter and longer passages, both on the GRE and GMAT, right? Uh, and as I mentioned earlier, essentially you have 3 to 4 questions from a typical, uh, reading comprehension passage. So basically, passages appears on the left hand side, and the answers, I mean questions, would appear on the right hand side. So all these are multiple choice questions. So basically, you can scroll down or scroll up to see how many number of questions uh, are there for a particular passage. So what does it essentially test? As you can see, the first point, it measures the candidate's ability to understand the whole passage, also to have a kind of analysis on the passage, right? So a lot of times you get passages which are quite quite tough, in the sense you get passages which require you to analyze the given piece of information and apply those information in these sort of questions. So your analysis play a very key role, right? So when I look at analysis, what I essentially look at is, I'm going to try and understand the main ideas of the passage, and I'm also going to look at the structure of the passage, like uh, what is the role of, let's say, the second paragraph in terms of the overall understanding of the passage. So that sort of analysis is required, right? And a lot of times you also need to have an understanding of the tone of the author, tone or the perspective or attitude of the author towards the subject. So, so which means you need to know what is the author's perspective, right? Is he positive? Is he enthusiastic about the topic being discussed, or is he very critical? right? Or has he taken a very neutral stand on the subject? So a lot of times you need to do these sort of analysis. So not just understanding the whole passage, but understanding the structure of the passage and tone of the author. This is quite important, right? So now essentially when we look at reading comprehension, there is a method towards this madness. I would say there's a kind of method or an approach which you need to follow to do well on the reading comprehension. Now, as you're given a passage, the first and foremost thing you need to understand is once you read the whole passage, right? Uh, Essentially, you should be able to grasp the main idea, right? So when I say main idea, it's about uh, the 2 or 3 points which the author wants to convey via a passage. So it's, I would say it's more like a treasure hunt. So it's not that all the lines are equally important, right? Certain lines are very important, especially the the first 1 or 2 lines is very important, because that is where the main idea of the passage comes in, right? Now, as we read further, when we look at, let's say, transition words like however, moreover, furthermore. So those sentences which starts with however, or a moreover, or a in addition to. Now these lines are also very important, because this is where the uh, you know author is gonna have a different take on the subject. So let's say if the passage says however, population explosion has major disadvantages, right? So essentially now I can understand, okay, now he's going to talk about something negative, right? So far he's talking about positives about, let's say, population, right? The fact that you have more number of people in a country, which means it's a human resource. Now he's going to talk about something negative. However, it has a lot of disadvantages. Or if I look at a word like furthermore, again, this shows that he's going to add one extra point which is already stated. So the first and foremost thing you need to understand is you're going to skim through the passage, right? Skimming essentially means you're not going to read the whole passage. You're going to focus on the first 1 or 2 lines of the passage. That's where the main idea comes. And then you're going to look at these transition words like however, moreover, furthermore. Those sentences you're going to be very careful. And you're also going to focus on the last line of the paragraph, right? So first 1 or 2 line of the paragraph, the lines which starts with the transition word, and the last line of the paragraph. Now, mostly last line of the paragraph is when he concludes. He uses words like therefore or in conclusion. Those sort of words are going to give you some sort of idea on the whole idea of the passage.
Okay, you gave me a lot of detail. Let me sum it up what you said. Okay, so first we're gonna read the first line of a paragraph and get the context of it. Then
Yes.
we're gonna pay attention to the words like moreover, however, where the context changes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and then we're gonna read the last line of a paragraph where he gonna conclude the things which it is.
Exactly.
Anything I'm missing here?
No, nothing. So this is exactly the way you should approach every paragraph. Now, before you move to the second paragraph, you're going to just summarize the whole stuff, right? You're just going to have a mental map wherein you're going to summarize the whole paragraph. Then you move to the second paragraph. So this is something which you need to do for all the paragraphs. Let's say you have 3 paragraphs, you need to have kind of an approach for all the 3 paragraphs.
So I was just reading this paragraph, okay, sample paragraph,
Mhm.
and what I found that most of the time what they give some story on first paragraph.
Mhm.
Second paragraph they give two contrast, okay,
Yes, yes,
either both negative or positive negative, and then they conclude.
yes.
Or in the third paragraph they bring someone in's opinion and their opinion and they conclude.
Yeah.
So when you are saying that every paragraph we're gonna read and then we're gonna this one compare the contrast, I didn't get that meaning at that point.
Yeah. So a lot of times what you need to understand here is, as I told you earlier, you need to understand the structure of the paragraph. Essentially,
Okay.
structure, if you look at, the structure. So let's say if it is kind of an argumentative passage, right? In an argumentative passage, author argues for a particular perspective or a particular view. So what does he do is, let's say he comes up with a particular argument, right? So let's say he talks about a study being conducted on, let's say, fossil fuel, and these are the conclusions, right? And then he later on he comes up with another study, right, which basically says that the previous study was not right, right? It was there was some flaw in the previous study. So that would be your second paragraph, where he explains the new study and he basically contrasts the methodologies adopted in the first study versus the second study, right? And then finally he comes to a conclusion by reiterating all those which he has stated in the second paragraph. Just sum it up, like why the first study has some drawback, whereas the second study has included all those points which were
So I have a question here.
yeah.
There is a certain set of this structure we have in this one.
Yeah, both for GRE and
GRE.
yeah. So
Okay.
when we look at passages, I would say passages can be classified into, let's say, an argumentative passage, right? As I told you
Okay.
just now, wherein author argues for a particular view or a perspective, right?
Okay.
Now, then you have something called, let's say, an explanatory passage, wherein normally if you look at these science passages, these can be classified as explanatory passages, wherein author doesn't argue for any view or any perspective, he just explains a scientific phenomenon. So let's say he says, okay, uh, uh, how a star formed, right? Or the whole process of formation of a star, right? Combination of hydrogen with helium, right? So he just explains the whole concepts related. So
Give me example of argumentative earlier which you were giving. Na contrast. People will contrast two opinion and then it
yes,
will come.
yes, yes.
So any example of such topic?
Yeah, we are going to do that today, right?
Okay.
After the explanation, I will be doing some real passages. So
Okay.
an argumentative passage always look like this, right? Author argues for a particular perspective or a particular view, right? He comes up with a study conducted on, let's say, fossil fuels, right? And let's say he talks about some conclusions, and then he talks about another study, right, which included those variables, those aspects which are not included in the first study. So basically he says, he explains the drawbacks related to the first study, and the second study includes that drawbacks, or it addresses those drawbacks, and then he comes to a conclusion. So this is how a typical argumentative passage would look like, wherein author argues for a particular view or a particular perspective, um, whereas an explanatory passage, I would say it's more like author explains a particular phenomenon or a concept, wherein he doesn't talk about his perspective in an explanatory passage, right? So yes, we're going to do some real passages. You get a clarity on that today, right? Now, another very important thing here is see vocabulary, right? So GRE is an exam which is predominantly into vocabulary, especially the text completion and sentence equivalence questions test vocabulary.
Yeah.
So reading comprehension indirectly tests your vocabulary knowledge. So on a reading comprehension passage, you see those sort of questions which essentially test the contextual meaning of a word, right? So the questions would be very specific in nature, like why does the author talk about thermodynamics in the second paragraph of the passage? Now, essentially these questions are testing your vocabulary, but vocabulary in a particular context. So we are not looking at a dictionary definition of the word thermodynamics. We're looking at a context. In that particular context, now why does the author use that word, right? Or what is the whole idea? So essentially, you come across these sort of vocabulary-based questions.
Mhm.
And another very important thing I want you to understand when you approach reading comprehension question is, see, a lot of times students tend to use their general knowledge, their general awareness. Now, this is something which we're not supposed to do on a reading comprehension question. Essentially, you have to consider what is given in the passage to be factually correct, and then solve questions based on those factual information. So don't bring your external knowledge, right? Try to understand the passage and then solve the questions based on the passage. So that would be my suggestion. Now, as I told you earlier, a lot of times one of the challenges is we tend to take a lot of time to read and understand and then solve the question. So
Yeah,
on an
mindfulness.
average, yeah, on an average, what I would suggest is take 2 to 3 minutes to read the whole passage and map those, passage. Mapping is nothing but, trying to get the main idea uh, by looking at the initial 1 or 2 lines, look at the sentence which starts with the transition word, look at the final sentence, right? So what you can do is you can just note down those points on the erasable notepad, which is given for you in the actual exam, right? So that's called mapping. Mapping essentially means to get the main idea of the passage. So try to spend like 2 to 3 minutes to read and understand the passage, and I would say 3 to 4 minutes to solve the question. So on an average, I would say 5 to 6 minutes per passage is what is ideal, not more than that, right? But obviously, initially, I'm sure you will take more time because until and unless you practice many reading comprehension questions, right, this doesn't become so natural for you. It might take some time. So
Yeah.
uh, initial phase, my suggestion would be focus on accuracy, right?
Mhm.
Try to get all the questions right. That should be your focus. Now, as you do more number of passages, your reading speed improves, right? Your comprehension level also improves, and you will be able to solve more number of questions in fewer minutes, right? So this is pretty much very important. You skim through the whole passage and then you solve questions. Don't spend too much time. And another thing which I found with a lot of students is, right, what happens is if they don't understand a particular concept, what they do is they keep on reading the same sentence again and again, try to understand. And what happens is, uh, see, if I don't understand a sentence, right, even if I read 10 times, I'm not going to make anything out of it. Simple as that, right? So that is a wrong strategy. Just go on, right? One particular sentence is not going to have a huge impact on your scoring, right? As I told you, it's all about overall understanding and having a general understanding of the passage, which is very important. So if you miss one line, that's not going to have a huge impact. So please don't do that. If you don't understand a line or a word, that's perfectly okay. Move on and then have a general understanding of the passage.
But the thing is that that is the problem with me also. Okay, but
Yeah.
when I don't understand that line, when I read the next line, I don't get the this context what it is here.
Mhm.
So how do I go ahead with that?
Yeah, so that's what I said. After reading the whole paragraph, you just summarize it, right? So when I look at the first 1 or 2 lines of the para itself, uh, I would have got the main idea, right? So always first 1 or 2 lines you have to understand. There is no other option. So if the line that you're not able to understand, right, is a topic sentence, then I would suggest you to reread it, right? You understood my point?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because I have to understand on what topic
Yes.
this
Topic
one is there.
sentence always invariably comes in the first 1 or 2 lines. So if I don't understand first 1 or 2 lines, there is no point in reading further.
Yeah.
But if the line that you're not able to understand is, let's say, a fourth line or a fifth line of the paragraph, that is going to have not going to have a huge impact. That was my point. So first 1 or 2 lines, line which starts with the transition word, final line, these lines I should have a good understanding. The rest, even
Yeah.
if I miss, it's not going to have a huge impact, right? Now, identify author's purpose, tone, and perspective, as I was telling you earlier. Now, why does the author talk about this particular subject, right? Is it to explain a concept? Is it to argue a particular point of view, right? Uh, so you need to have kind of a, this is called the purpose of the passage. Now, why does the author write this passage? And you also need to understand the tone, author's take on the subject, right? Is he very critical about this first study, right? Or is he very neutral, or is he too enthusiastic about the topic given, right? So a lot of times you need to understand the tone of the author by looking at the keywords. So here it's not about what he says, it's about how he says, right? So if the author says, I wholeheartedly agree that developed countries should help developing countries in terms of managing finances, right? So this means that author is in agreement with the given topic. I wholeheartedly agree with that, right? Or if the author says it's a welcome sign that developed countries are not using uh, any forceful means to threaten the weaker economies. So again, he's using a word like something which is very positive. I wholeheartedly agree. It's a welcome step. So a lot of times you need to use these sort of words to understand the perspective. So understanding view, perspective, purpose, structure. As I told you, structure of the paragraph is more to do with the role of each and every paragraph, right? Like, how does the second paragraph go about it when it comes to the overall structure, right? What is he talking about? Or how does he conclude the third paragraph? So these sort of understanding is very important when you approach reading comprehension questions. So now what are we looking at? As I told you, we are looking at these three aspects. One is your general information, right? Which is nothing but getting the main idea. Now, where do I see main idea? Tell me.
First paragraph,
Yes,
first two,
first
three
one
line
or
of
two
paragraph.
lines, right? And I also need to look at the line which starts with the transition words and the final line of the paragraph. Now, structure, as I told you earlier, you also need to know what each and every paragraph says, what each and every paragraph's role overall in terms of overall understanding of the passage. Uh, and the tone is, as I told you, it's about how the author explains a point. So let's say if he uses the term like it's admirable by by these countries to support weaker countries. So now that's pretty positive tone. But if I look at words like unrealistic or shortcoming, those are negative words. So you'll have to look at negative words, positive words as well.
Can you please go back a little? Structure, we will get it. You will tell me how many structures are there, correct?
Yeah, so as I told you, normally when we look at structure, it's about you need to understand uh, what is the role of each and every paragraph. So like, let's say the first paragraph uh, is used to introduce a topic, right? And let's say the second paragraph talks about a particular study being conducted on fossil fuels and its
Okay.
implications. Whereas the third paragraph talks about a latest study being conducted, which uh, stresses on um, the drawbacks which were part of the
Okay.
first study, right? And it basically gives you a solution, or it gives you a kind of what do you call a kind of a solution or an implication of the first study, and it rectifies the problem associated with the first study. So that's how the third paragraph go about it, and then you have a conclusion. So this is one structure that you see if it is an argumentative passage where
Okay.
author argues for a particular point. Now if it is an explanatory passage, as I told you earlier, it's more like author explains a particular concept or a phenomenon by giving the methodologies used to study, right? So he explains the whole concept, wherein he uses very objective tone, right? He won't talk about what his view is all about. He
Mhm.
would basically explain the whole process of, let's say, how star is being formed, and what are the processes involved. So that's the structure of an explanatory passage. So when we look at structure, as I told you, we need to know the role of each and every paragraph in terms of overall understanding of the passage, right? Now, so as we look at critical reading, which I mentioned earlier, it's nothing but you basically go through the passage quickly to get a very general idea. You skim through the passage, focusing on the main idea, and always remember, don't spend too much time on detail, right? So don't focus too much on examples and evidence. We are not looking for examples and evidence when we are reading the passage for the first time. We are only looking at trying to get a very bird's eye view, a very general idea of the passage. Because if the questions pertain to any detail, those are called specific detail question, right? So in order to answer specific detail question, all you need to know here is where is that detail, right? Is it in the second para, or is it in the third para, or is it in the final para? That much understanding you need to have when you read the passage for the first time. And once you get to that sort of understanding, right, you go back to that para, read that detail, and then you come back and solve questions. So this is how a detailed question should be solved. But for a general idea question, you should never go back to the passage, right? After reading the passage for the first time, you should have got a very general understanding, which is good enough to solve a general idea question. So,
And we get general idea at least one or two in every passage.
yeah, you get one main point for every paragraph, I would say. And if you combine all the main points of each and every paragraph, you get the general idea of the whole paragraph. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, always attack the opening paragraph, as I told you. The first one or two line of the first paragraph is very important because that's where the topic sentence comes. By reading that line, you will understand, okay, now this passage is about, it's a science passage, right? It's about how stars are being formed. So you get an idea. Or let's say this is an argumentative passage where he talks about how fossil records prove a certain point, or it comes to a certain conclusion. Right? Now, after reading a para, just summarize it in your own mind before you read the next paragraph. Right? Just try to understand the gist of that para, and then you move to the next para, and do this process again for the second para and for the third para, depending on the number of paras that you have. And then you attack the question. This is how you would approach. Now, time management, as I told you earlier, 2 to 3 minutes to read the passage, 4 to 5 minutes to answer question, right? So this is how you should approach.
4 to 5 minute one question or each question?
Sorry?
4 to 5 minute to answer one question.
No. I'm talking about the whole passage. Whole passage you
Okay.
would take 6 minutes to complete. Okay, which
Okay.
includes 2 minutes to read and 4 minutes to answer, or 3 minutes to read and 5 minutes to answer. So I would say, overall you have what, 6 minutes to answer, or even 8 minutes. Give me a second. Yeah. So that's about time management part. Uh, Now, when we look at one more aspect, that's about the content part, right? See, both on the GMAT and GRE, you come across passages from different fields, right? You get passages from, let's say, history, politics, economics, business. Now, that's one of the favorite for both GRE and GMAT, business and economics. Or even a passage based on science. That's again one of the favorites. And you also come across these sort of uh, you know, um, theory-based passages. So let's say about feminist theory, right? And so a lot of these sort of passages that you come across, it could range from history to astronomy, right? You never know. And you don't need any specific knowledge to answer any of these questions. All you need to have is to have a good understanding of the passage, a general understanding of the passage, and then you're going to solve these questions. And another challenge is limited reading speed, right? Uh, we're not used to reading a lot, right? Even
Yeah.
when you read what is required for your studies or what is required for your office purpose. But we don't tend to read a lot, so which means our reading speed may not be great. So and there is not much you can do about it. I would say uh, read less. That is what you should do for both GRE and GMAT RC passages, right? You're going to skim through the passage. That once you employ this strategy, that's quite easy for you. So once you do it for 2-3 passages, skimming the passage and mapping those passages, I'm sure that will help you a lot, right? And answering questions. Now we're going to solve some questions. So you'll get a clarity on how to approach a main idea question or a detailed question, or there is something called an inference question as well. So these are the 3 type of questions that you see on a GRE or a GMAT exam. So we will be looking at that as well. So yes, so type of questions. Now, what are the type of questions that I have? I have main idea questions. I have a detailed question, and I'll also have something called an inference question. So as the term suggests, a main idea question is asking, uh, like, it's basically asking that general piece of information which is given in the passage, right? Or the theme of the passage, or the main idea, or the main point of the passage. So the questions would be, what is the main idea of the passage? Or what is the theme of the passage? Or it could be, what is the primary purpose of the author in writing this passage? Or author is primarily concerned with da da da, right? So this is how the question would look like. Now, if you look at main idea question, you also see questions based on structure and tone question. So as I told you, tone question would be, author would agree to so and so principles, right? Um, and they give you options, right? Or author would agree with which of the following statements. So essentially, you need to know uh, what is the author's take on the subject, right? So these all come under your main idea question. Now, whereas a detailed question, which can also be called a specific detailed question, um, essentially here we are looking at specific information which is being described. So now here you need to employ something called scanning technique. Scanning is more like, so let's say you want to look for a specific piece of information. So just imagine you are searching for a particular phone number from a directory, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's called scanning. You're looking for a piece of information. Right? Skimming, I would say more like, let's say, morning newspaper, right? When you're given a morning newspaper, how would you approach? That's how
Yeah,
you
just
would
read
see,
the
right? You just
headlines,
read the
main
heading,
motives.
you read the
Mhm.
major 1 or 2 line, right? You're not going to read in depth. So skimming is mainly used for a general idea question, Whereas a scanning is used for a specific detailed question. So as I was telling you, giving you an example earlier, why does the author talk about thermodynamics in the second line of the third paragraph? Now, imagine if this is a question. So that's quite a very detailed question. So you need to know um, what you do is you go back to that particular line, third line of the second para, and you read it, read one line before, one line after, and read that particular line to get a context, right? Once you get the context, understand the meaning, then you're gonna solve those questions. You come back and then you're gonna attack the question. Then comes inference question. Now, inference is more like you need to read between lines. So essentially, we are looking at something which is not directly stated, but it's been implied in the passage, right? So normally you see author suggests coral reef communities are paradoxical because, so the word like author suggests or the author implies. So by looking at these words, you know that this is an inference question, right? So basically, this is something which is not stated directly in the passage, but this is being implied by the author, right? As I told you, you have to read between the lines to answer these sort of questions. These are main idea question, which requires a general understanding of the passage. Detailed question, which require you to have a understanding of detail, which you need to scan and find out. And then come in inference question, which is more like something which is not stated directly, but you have to understand from the para. So as I told you, this is how a main idea question would look like. What is a main idea? What is the primary purpose? And even what is the structure of the passage? That also comes under main idea. So strategy, as I told you, when you're reading the passage, when you're skimming through, you will have created a map. Map is nothing but you're going to convey only the keywords, key ideas which are described in each and every paragraph. Now, using that map, right, you will be able to solve these main idea questions, right? And the answer options are also quite general when we are looking at a main idea question. So if we look at a main idea question, any answer option which is very specific is not what you're looking for, because the question is a very general question, so the answer should also be very general.
How do you differentiate between the tone general? General is a
Sorry?
tone, general is a tone. For example, can you give me an example of general tone?
Tone of the author, you're saying?
Yeah, tone of the author when just
Yeah,
generally
tone,
he's referring.
no, tone could be either positive or it could be
Or
negative.
negative.
Or at
Yeah.
times you see a neutral. Neutral is more like objective. See, a neutral tone is where when the author doesn't give his view, right? He doesn't say that, he doesn't criticize the passage, nor does he support the passage, right? So when he doesn't give his opinion on the subject, it's become a neutral tone. You understand?
Okay.
A detailed question. Now, this is how a detailed question would look like. Author quotes Polar Baker in the second para in order to dash. Or in the context of the passage, metamorphosis means dash. So for these, you're going to scan and identify the piece of information which is required, and then you come back and solve these questions.
Okay.
Inference, as I told you earlier, this is how inference question would look like. The passage suggests that the author would be most likely to agree with the following. So the moment you see the passage suggests, it's an inference. Or it can be inferred from the passage that person X mentioned in passage is likely to agree with that. So what is the strategy? Right? Very important. As you know, inference, it's more like an unstated information. So any option which directly comes from the passage is not what you're looking for, right? Because this is an inference. Inference means you have to move slightly beyond what is given in the passage. You have to understand the implication, which is not directly given, right? So, we will be doing some questions so that you get a clarity on inference. Now, before we move, since you were asking me about the tone, we look at tone of the author. So when I say tone of the author, it essentially uses words and phrases that show the attitude of the author towards the subject being discussed. So what is the author's perspective, or what is the author's attitude towards the subject? So if the author simply gives the factual information, right, it's a very neutral tone. Right? If I say Sachin Tendulkar is a batsman, as an author, I'm not giving my attitude, right? I'm just giving you a factual statement, right? He's a batsman. It's a factual statement. Or if I say Sachin Tendulkar has scored more than 10,000 runs in one day international, again, it's a very neutral tone. I'm not giving you anything, any sort of view, my view here. I'm just giving you a factual statement. But if I say Sachin Tendulkar is a genius, or if I say, Sachin Tendulkar is a child prodigy, right? Essentially, I'm giving a very positive tone, right? I'm saying that, okay, this guy is so wonderful, has a lot of talent. So that is very positive. Another example, the life and career of Miles Davis have been astonishingly productive and noteworthy, right? So essentially here you are saying that this guy's life is very productive and very noteworthy, right? So which means you need to you can learn a lot of things from his life, right? His life is so noteworthy, so significant, and very productive. So these are all very positive tones. So, right? So what we're going to look at here is we're going to look at a passage, and then we're going to solve some questions based on the passage, right? So I think you have what, 5 questions. Yeah, so we'll try doing this passage. So take your time. I would give you some 2 to 3 minutes to read the passage, and as you read the passage, map the passage as I told you, right? Try to get the main idea of every paragraph, skim through it,
Okay.
right? And then we will solve questions. Okay? Tushar, I hope you have read it.
Yeah, or last line reading. 1 minute more, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So tell me, before we solve the question, right? If you were to summarize the whole passage, let's look at the first para. If you were to summarize the first para, right? What are the major points that you would
Yeah.
include?
So it started with coral reef and why it is, what are they, okay,
Hmm.
their importance. Then it shifted to how coral reefs help with this one, water,
Mhm.
shallow water and poor water nutrition, okay,
Right,
and
right,
and then it shifted to how what biological treat they are things they are having that help the coral reef to do that.
right, right. So
This
basically,
is the
the
first
first
paragraph.
one or two lines gives you the idea, right? It says coral reefs are one of the most fragile, biologically complex and diverse marine ecosystem. And it says it's one of the fascinating paradoxes of the biosphere. And it also explains what is that paradox, how do clear and nutrient poor water support such prolific productive communities. Now, by reading the first two lines, you'll get an idea that coral reefs is one of the most fascinating paradoxes. Now, what do we mean by a paradox? I hope you remember
Yeah,
the.
paradox. It should, it's like, I remember that paradox. Thing which is happening, contrast to that one which is
Exactly.
should happen,
Exactly.
but it is not happening.
Okay, so basically, paradox means a kind of a puzzling situation, right? Something
Yes, yes.
uh,
Like it should
quite
happen like that, but it is
contradictory
not
in
happening.
nature,
Yeah,
right? So something which is contradictory in nature. So what is so contradictory here? If you look at it, it says that coral reefs can thrive in nutrient poor waters. See, normally for an organism, it requires a lot of food, right? For whether it is plant or any other organism, you require nutrients. But in the case of coral reefs cannot grow if there are a lot of nutrients. It grows well if there is no nutrient. So,
less
right?
nutrient.
So that is why it is called as a paradox. That's one main point. And if you look at further, the whole paragraph explains that paradox. So those are called detailed part, which we are not going to look at it. We are only looking at the main idea, which we
Mhm.
got from the first one or two lines, right?
Yeah,
Now, if you look at the second paragraph, the first line says a variety of human activities are causing worldwide degradation of shallow marine habitats, adding
yeah,
nutrients to water. So the fact that human activities are adding nutrients to water is creating problems to marine habitats such as coral reefs. Got it. So these are the two
yeah,
main points. One is the first para says coral reefs cannot thrive in nutrient-rich waters. It can only grow where there is scarce nutrient resources, right? And the second
yeah,
point is the fact that human activities are increasing nutrients, which means coral reefs are struggling to survive. That's the second major point, right? Now, keeping those data in our mind, let's solve these questions, right? Let's look at the,
give me a second, I'll plug my laptop into charge.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, back.
right? So let's solve these questions. So the passage is primarily concerned with. Now tell me, what sort of question is it? Is it a main idea, a detail, or an inference question?
It's the main idea, whole
Main idea
paragraph what it
question,
is. Yeah.
right? So you need to have a general understanding of the passage. So passage is primarily concerned with describing the effect
Degradation
of
of.
human activities on algae,
Hmm.
explaining how human activities are posing a threat to coral reef communities. B sounds to be okay, but hold on. C, discussing process by which coral reefs deteriorate in nutrient poor waters. Now, do coral reefs deteriorate in nutrient poor waters? No,
No,
right? They grow well when the
in
nutrients
your
are
trust.
less. So option C is
Yeah.
opposite, right?
Hmm.
D, explaining how coral reefs produce food for themselves. Even though this is given in the passage, that is not the main point, right? What is the main point? Main point is the fact that coral reefs can grow well when there is fewer resources. And another main point which is discussed is the fact that human beings are increasing the nutrient inputs, which is having a uh, negative impact on coral reefs, and the fact that they're not able to grow well because of these nutrients. So D is wrong. E says describing the abundance of algae and filter feeding animals. Now, is this the main point? No, it's just a detail. So as I told you, you should be able to differentiate between a main idea and a detail. So here the right option is option B, which clearly says how human activities are posing a threat to coral reef communities. I
So
hope this.
one thing is also there that this in this one author is just speaking. No other person is also there.
No,
So
no.
all the discussion will also go away. Only explanation will be left.
Yes, so it's
Is that
purely an
right?
explanatory passage where he explains the phenomenon with regard to
Hmm.
coral reef, right? How
Yeah.
it grows and what are the factors which help it to grow and what are the factors which can, deteriorate its process. So the right answer is option B. Now, the passage suggests which of the following about coral reef communities. Now, what is it? Is it a main idea, a detail, or an inference? Suggests. Suggests imply that it's an
Suggest which of the
inference,
following
kind of
about
an
the coral
inference,
community.
which is given, yeah, but not directly given, right? So, if you look at the options, it says coral reef communities may actually be more likely to thrive in waters that are relatively low in nutrients. Yes, this is what the author implied. Author
Yeah.
clearly says that if you have more nutrients, means coral reefs deteriorate. If you have fewer nutrients, right, coral reefs thrive. So option A sounds to be correct. Now, B says nutrients on which coral reef communities thrive are only found in shallow waters. Now, this is a trap. The moment you see these extreme words like only or always, be careful with these sort of words, because passages normally won't have extreme sort of information. So if here it says the nutrients are found only in shallow waters, which is not being supported by the passage, so B cannot be your answer.
So
Human
we
pop
don't have to go with this extreme any kind of word like
Yeah, normally,
only.
normally you don't see an extreme piece of information given on a GMAT or a GRE passage. You don't see that, right? The chances of you seeing a very extreme statement is very rare on the GMAT or a GRE. But if the passage gives kind of an extreme statement, then the answer option makes sense. It makes sense for you to choose for an extreme option. But in this case, that's not the case. Human population growth has led to changing ocean temperature, right? Nowhere in the passage are we talking about the increase in ocean temperature due to human population. So this is an out of scope piece of information, right? Nowhere mentioned.
Yeah.
The growth of coral reef communities tends to destabilize underwater herbivore population. No, right? That is also not given. It is an out of scope, right? So that is wrong. Coral reef
The growth
community,
of coral reef community tends to destabilize underwater. No,
yeah,
underwater it is not.
underwater herbivore population, right? We are not saying that it is destabilizing it.
Hmm.
coral reef communities are more complex and diverse than most ecosystems. See, there is no comparison of coral reefs ecosystem vis-a-vis
or others
other
one. Yeah.
ecosystem. There is no comparison in the passage. So this is also out of scope. So the right option is option A. They are likely to survive or thrive in waters that are relatively low in nutrients. Got it? Now, author refers to filter feeding animals, line number 23 to 24. Now, what sort of question is this? Is it
Detailed question.
detailed question? So what are you supposed to do for a detailed question?
Go to that line and
Yes,
see
you have
what
to
it
go
means.
back to that line, understand it, and then you come back and solve the question. So let's go back to the para. If you look at the second para, line number 4 says typical symptoms of reef decline are a destabilized herbivore population and an increasing abundance of algae and filter feeding animals. So what it says is whenever coral reef declines, right, you could see its symptoms. What are the symptoms? You have a destabilized
Algae will
herbivore
increase in
population and you have an increase in algae and filter feeding animals. So when do you see increase in algae and filter feeding animals? Right?
when
When
coral
the
reef
reef
declines.
declines. So let's look at that. So option A says provide an example of a characteristic sign of reef deterioration. Exactly the same, right? It's a
Yeah.
sign or a symptom of reef decline. That's what the passage says. So reef decline and reef deterioration are same idea. So here they're testing your vocabulary skills. They're testing your synonyms. So A sounds to be correct. Explain how reef communities acquire sustenance for survival, right? That is not what here, that's not what is stated. That is stated in the first para where they are talking about symbiotic process, right? But not here. Identify a factor that helps herbivore population to thrive. No, that's also not the point here. D, indicate a cause of decreasing nutrient input in waters. Now, nowhere in the passage are we talking about a decreasing nutrient input. We are talking about increase in nutrient input due to human activities. So D is completely opposite of what is stated. Identify members of coral reef communities that rely on coral reefs for nutrients. Again, there is no example given, no members of reef community given who relies on coral reef. So the right option is option A, right? So let's look at one more question. According to the passage, which of the following is a factor that is threatening the survival of coral reef?
Can I get 2 minutes of break?
Yeah, no problem, no problem.